Are you having a hard time figuring out what to get Dad for Father's Day? You should check out Row 1 Brand's Vintage Pictorum Gallery. They have America's best sports art. With over 7,200 historic sports prints, you're assured to find something unique for Dad this Father's Day. Instead of a boring old tie, get him a historic baseball photo taken by Henry High Sandham at the historic Polo Grounds Stadium in New York City during the 1894 Temple Cup. Or, if he's an NFL buff, check out the 1963 vintage NFL poster. These are so good looking that you'll be amazed how they turn out. Shop now at sportshistorynetwork.com/row1 and save 15% off your order.
It's a total privilege to have an award-winning filmmaker, Scott Orris, join us to talk about his latest venture, Rap Dixon, Beyond Baseball, a legendary Negro League player, and we're going to hear about the film and the great player coming up in just a moment, with Scott telling us all about him. My name's Darren Hayes, and I know you've heard me on the Pigskin Dispatch talking about football history for years. Well, now I'm on a new mission, a quest to find sports history in other sports as well as football by learning through the jerseys and the apparel and the gear that the players wore and the franchises supplied their teams. It's an educational trip, and I'm taking you with me day by day, player by player, uniform by uniform. The Sports Jersey Dispatch.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, my sporting friends. This is Darren Hayes of the Sports Jersey Dispatch podcast. Welcome once again to the Pigpen, your portal to all things great in sports. And we have a real privilege today. We're going to be talking to director Scott Orris, who is making a movie about a baseball player that started a century ago in the Negro Leagues, Rap Dixon. His name of his movie is going to be coming out is Rap Dixon Beyond Baseball. And without further ado, Scott Orris, welcome to the Pigpen.
Thank you, Darren. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, Scott, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe tie in how you became interested in legendary baseball players and especially Rap Dixon.
Okay. Well, it ties back. So when I was a kid, I grew up as a big fan of baseball. I always loved history, and I blame Ken Burns for that. So
great film, isn't it?
Oh yeah. The baseball series by Ken Burns, that was my introduction to the Negro Leagues, really, and served as my primer for everything else that would feed off of that, and reading books about the Negro Leagues and whatnot. So whenever I was in college, I originally got a degree in history, and later on I went back for a degree in film, and I was in a documentary class, and they came to us and they said, hey, I know a Negro League baseball player. He was part of this team called the Harrisburg Giants. Would you be interested in possibly making a movie about this or something? I said, and I heard about this, I'm like, oh wow, like it's like, because I grew up with the Ken Burns series, and I went to the Baseball Hall of Fame. I played Little League and whatnot. I was like, oh wow, I'm ready for this. Yeah, like let's do it. And the fact that they said about this team, the Harrisburg Giants, I lived in central Pennsylvania my entire life, and I had never heard of this team, and I was like, how could I not have heard of this team? And if I haven't heard of this team, who else hasn't heard about this team? So from there, I was like, I have to do this. And I launched into it and made There Were Giants, played at the Harrisburg Hershey Film Festival. And, the players came that I interviewed, the surviving members of the Giants. It was a big deal. Won the Audience Award, most popular film at the festival. And then, played at the Kansas City Film Festival. It was endorsed by the Negro League Museum, played at the Baseball Hall of Fame Film Festival. So, and then it got on Shorts TV, the cable channel and stuff. So now it's for free. So anybody can watch it.
Why don't you, while we're talking about, why don't you, so people can be introduced to your films, especially, the favorite four-letter word of many people, free. Why don't you let people know again the name and where they can find it, and so they can see some of your stuff.
There Were Giants on Vimeo. So if you go to my page, my production company, Lineage Line Films, and I have a Twitter page and a Facebook page for those. And if you go there, you will see the link for that film, so you can watch it. It's a documentary short. It's 18 minutes long. So I talk about rap briefly on in that film, but there was so much to unpack with rap and his career, and really the fact that he was overlooked for so long because he died before baseball integrated. He died in 1944 as a young man in his early 40s. So he didn't really live long enough to really talk about himself whenever all these Negro League players started going in the 70s and stuff like that. So he was kind of left behind somewhat. And it wasn't because when you look at his numbers, you look at his stats, you hear the legends and the accomplishments that he had, you're like, oh my gosh, like, why isn't this guy in the Hall of Fame? The Negro League All Centennial team that was named, he was the only one out of the 19 position players who was not in the Hall of Fame, and he's on that team. He's considered on the greatest Negro League team, a selected team of all time, but he is not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. So there is a movement locally, to get him, and we others major historians have joined us on this journey to try to get him enshrined in Cooperstown where he belongs, and I'd be glad to talk about all of his different legends if you like. But yeah, there is so much there to unpack. And whenever I heard about and I dug into it, because I really call it getting into the weeds, because when you do research and, because you originally draws you to it, and then you have, the hooks as you continue. And it was like with rap, it just kept going. It was like bottomless. It was just like players of all time. So I just kind of really identified with him and really got interested in his story, and I needed to tell it. So
well, why don't we start? Let's put it in rewind for a second. Why don't we start beginning with rap, where he's from originally, and how he became connected with your Harrisburg Giants that made the connection to you.
Oh yeah. Well, originally he's from Kingston, Georgia, and so he grew up. I think he was born 1902. So he was born there in Kingston, Georgia, and his family actually moved. They were part of what was called the Great Migration from many African Americans from the South up to the North around the turn of the century, and to find work. And they found work at the steel mill in Steelton, and that's actually where Rap and his brothers forged their work ethic that served them well in baseball. And I would like to say, Rap's brother Paul also played in the Negro Leagues and actually played on a lot of the same teams that Rap played on. And Rap would take him with him traveling and whatnot. So they had a great bond.
Now, I was doing some research when I invited you to come on, just doing a little bit of background on it. And it was interesting when you said that, Rap at the young age and his brother, some of the other family members working at the steel mills. There was a story of him picking up the steel ingots and throwing them to where the cranes could get them.
Yes.
And if you could talk a little bit about that, that's an amazing story.
Yeah. He would throw these things, and that's how he forged his arm. I mean, that's how he developed his arm strength. It's like people now, they think, we're lifting weights, we have this regimented program or something. No, I mean, like, he literally, like, that was his training for his arm, was throwing those things because they were heavy, and he's wailing these things. And I have a whole story about him. And Ted Norris has proven this, that actually Rap Dixon has the best arm from the Negro Leagues. There's like a run saved by arm stat that if you go through and seam heads, that Rap Dixon had the best throwing arm from the outfield in the Negro Leagues. And there's a lot of people that can testify to that too, in stories. And also, and I'll get to the whole, but the trophy that Emperor Hirohito gives Rap Dixon when he's touring Japan, his first tour by any team from the U.S. to Japan, and it's a Negro League team, Philadelphia Royal Giants. They played with the California Winter League. He won this trophy for putting on these feats of strength. And Leo Syke Burnett, who played for the Harrisburg Giants later and was good, and he was kind of his mentor. He coached him in whenever he was Harrisburg Giants. And he said that Rap said that because he asked him, he said, well, how'd you get that trophy? I got it for doing what I do best. And he said, well, what do you do best? He said, I had the best arm in baseball. And he said, do you want me to like talk about it or shut up? And he said, shut up. Don't tell anybody. And that was Rap Dixon. Rap Dixon was a guy that kept to himself, that, was really close with his friends, but he played the game for his own satisfaction. He did not play it for adoration and fame and whatnot like that. But he knew himself that he's amazing. And more you dig into, it's like say it's like shot out of a rifle. Like his arm looks like it's shot out of a rifle or something. Like all sorts of descriptions that I'm just like, wow, this is like so one of the greatest outfielders of all time. In fact, Oscar Charleston, who you might have heard of, he's usually considered like probably the greatest Negro League outfielder. He's one of the greatest players of all time. He was his teammates in the outfield, also coached him, and he picked all time. Like when he put him in his place in center field. Cool Papa Bell, who I'm sure you've heard of, another great Negro League outfielder, a teammate of Rap Dixon's many times. He put him in his position in his all-time team, saying that Rap Dixon was the greatest outfielder, in my position, and Oscar Charleston was willing the best outfielder he ever saw. That was Oscar Charleston's words. So there's opinions and legends that point to Rap Dixon, the growth that he had.
Yeah, when you have your peers that you're playing with, and the peers that are the best at the leagues that you're playing in, and they're the ones that are talking about you and replacing themselves in their own position with you, that player's got to be pretty good. And going back to what you said a little bit, I mean that's outstanding when you have somebody that's got that much talent and they just show it on the field, and they're very humble about it when people talk to them about it. That's a very attractive quality of anybody, but to be a superstar player like that, and to just respect yourself enough to say, hey, I'll do it on the field, and don't tell anybody about it. But that's remarkable. So that must be a great individual.
Yeah, he would never talk about himself. I would ask Syke, and Syke would say, no, Rap was a quiet guy. He wasn't going to say anything about himself, but he would praise, because Rap coached baseball. He was big on coach. He loved coaching baseball and youngsters and stuff growing up. He was coaching little league and youth baseball, and then he would coach semi-pro, Struthers AC and stuff. Going into the late 30s and early 40s. After he was done playing himself. So, but it's like would say, oh, he would praise a lot of guys coming up. That was Rap. He was all about, and he would go on and talk about Oscar. He'd talk about Fats Jenkins and stuff. Never wanted to talk about himself. So I just like, that's Rap Dixon. Like that's who he was. Yep.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Now, okay. Now we know his, Rap is a pretty uncommon name, and his God-given name when he was born, Herbert Alfonso Dixon. Now, do you know, how did he come up with the nickname Rap?
Well, there's a lot of different stories on how that happened. I could tell you the one, India Garnett, who was Rap Dixon's niece and Paul Dixon's granddaughter, believes that it was from the Rappahannock River. So I don't know if that had to do with when they traveled from Kingston to Steelton or what, but or he traveled there often or whatnot. But they believe that it's Rappahannock from the family's perspective. Ches Washington, a sports writer, interviewed Rap about this, and what Rap is the sound that his bat made when it hit the ball. It was, the sound it made, it was like a rapping, and that's how he got the nickname Rap. Players gave that to him because he was always rapping the ball. There's other, those are kind of like where it comes from. I asked Syke, who's has unfortunately since passed away. There's not many people. In fact, I'm not sure. I think there might be one surviving person that might still that have known Rap Dixon personally. But basically, Rap was one of these people that whenever he was traveling and stuff, he knows really for sure. It seems to be from either playing or it's the travel, because he did travel a lot, and that might be part of it too. Because whenever I've interviewed people, they have said like, he traveled, and that. So yeah, that's what I've heard. It's just basically.
So I guess maybe just to sum it up, I mean, he had a few different avenues to be a good name for him, and they all fit. And you put those round pegs in the round hole, and you come up with Rap Dixon. So it's
I guess so. Yeah,
it's a cool name too. It's great. You never hear it. It's really cool.
Well, there's so many great names from back then, right? It's like Cool Papa Bell, and even it's like Babe Ruth had like Sultan of SWAT and all these things. It was like these guys were kind of larger than life, and that's what I always liked about it. So yeah.
And then you got guys that are just cool. They could just use their name like Josh Gibson and just be.
Oh yeah, well, I mean that's all he needed.
Yeah, that's all he needed, and a good bat, right?
For friends. Yeah, they traveled together. They played for the Concordia Eagles together, the Pittsburgh Cards together. There were, and Josh was very young at that time, and Rap was an older player. So, but they were very good friends. So yeah, from what I can tell, they seem to have been on a lot of the same teams, and whenever it's believed that Rap, what was it, the Denver Post tournament, when he was coaching for I think the Trio All Stars, from what I kind of a bond between Gibson and Dixon. So
very cool. I guess that's probably a tight knit group, especially. A lot of those players, Rap and Josh Gibson and Cool Papa Bell, they moved around from team to team and played on multiple different teams, a few different of the leagues, even of the, Negro leagues. They were plural, different leagues. And so I think they all became friends in between all-star games and tours of Japan and everything. Probably got a lot of the guys on different teams. All right. Well, tell us a little bit about what prompted you to want to make a film about Rap Dixon?
Well, it's like how his career was just so there's so many incredible accomplishments that he had in his career. It's like I was talking about earlier, like the Japanese tour, that tour was the first Negro League tour, and it was the first American baseball tour and like any baseball team from America in 1927. And when they went over there, the team was Philadelphia Royal Giants, Biz Mackey, the Hall of Famer, the Hall of Fame catcher, Rap Dixon to go. And they go over there and they play super well. They lose like one game, on control that they didn't argue about or anything. And that showed like their sportsmanship or whatnot. The Japanese people were very impressed by their sportsmanship and how gentle they were. There's a baseball named that wrote about this in a book called Gentle Giants. It's argument that it's actually this tour that led to the Nippon 36. A lot of historians credit the Ruth Tour in 34 as being the catalyst, but I think that those went back farther than that. And from what they were actually not very impressed by, they were impressed by the skills of the major league players, but from what I've been reading is that they weren't impressed with their behavior. So they were a little bit arrogant, a little bit like, let's show off how great we are and stuff.
And Babe Ruth was probably looking to see where the closest sake bar was or something, probably.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. and I mean, like I said, they carried themselves really well, and so the last game they were like kind of the fans and stuff were kind of clamoring for them to kind of show off like what they could do and whatnot. And so Rap Dixon put on kind of a display of some of the things that his spectacular abilities, like he stood on home plate and threw balls over the outfield fence, like the center field fence or where he could throw, like I said, that arm, that arm, he could really he could really go with that arm. He ran the base path in half seconds. He actually had a home run in I'm trying to remember the name of the stadium, Kanushi Stadium, where he hit it farther than anyone out of one of these stadiums. They actually put a white mark that had his name on it, and it was there forever until they tore the stadium down, because it was just that nobody wanted to take it down because he was just such a disregarded. I mean, there's like little animated cartoons that you can find of Rap Dixon putting on these feats of strength or what. It was like he was just like, it's like amazing. So I'm wondering, because everybody debates on this trophy that he got from Emperor Hirohito, and there was a Loving Cup trophy that the won, and there's this like, well, did the team win the Loving Cup trophy, or like it's like, is the Loving Cup trophy the trophy that he gave Rap, Emperor Hirohito, or like is it, because Leo Syke Burnett describes the trophy as a jeweled trophy, a smaller trophy that has jewels all over it. And so it's not a Loving Cup trophy, and he says that's the one that Emperor Hero gave Rap. So India Garnett says it was a Loving Cup trophy. So I'm trying to sort that out. If they're both being honest, which I completely believe they are, I two trophies, and I think there was a team trophy that was given for their accomplishments of the whole team. That was a Loving Cup, because we can see that's in a picture. You can actually see that he's holding that they're holding like Bismack. He's holding that and stuff. You can see that trophy. That we know that trophy existed, and that trophy apparently was in India Garnett's family, and in the Rap Dixon's niece. So apparently they don't know what happened to it. Apparently, one of their relatives had it, and someone's working there for them, apparently possibly stolen it or something, like a young person that was, it's just one of those like sad things. So, but yeah, it's like one of the most sought after things is to solve this whole thing with the trophy and stuff, because apparently it did happen. But I would love to track that down,
Well, you never know. Things like that pop up, all the time. Somebody, has it in their basement or attic or something, forgets about it, and some generation sells it at a garage sale, and a baseball historian someday maybe you'll find it, and put where it belongs in the Hall of Fame or something, So hopefully right next to Rap. So.
Yeah, hopefully, hopefully, and so another great thing about Rap that one of his legendary accomplishments was the fact that he had 14 consecutive hits, which so it's a baseball record. It's better than the major league record, and this has been codified. We have gone through this. So in 2006, when the Negro Leagues authors group was electing players for the Hall of Fame, they didn't have that information. So they knew that they knew of the 14 straight hits, but they weren't actually put in the stats, all of them. And whenever you put all of them in, since he hit 415 for that year.
Oh.
So in 1929, so he was that good. I mean, it was.
Kids playing t-ball don't hit 415,
Well, I mean, we're all amazed. Ted Williams hit 406 or something, and it was like what are those? He was like the last 100, I believe, and in the majors. And Rap hit like 415. It's like, so this, we talk about DiMaggio, right? The 56 game hitting streak. We got at least one hit in 56 straight games. It didn't get him at every at bat. Like Rap got at 14 straight at bats, he got a hit, which is like ridiculous. I mean, I can't even imagine that. I mean, it's like,
it's like 4 straight games or something,
Yeah, it was. And the interesting part about that is that he was actually beaned before that. They actually had to, before he started the streak, he was actually beaned and basically carted off the field, like in a stretcher, like from not being able to play it. And he comes back later in the game and finishes that game somehow. I mean, that's all it was then. They didn't have deep benches. So it's like he had to go in there and it was, and then the game after that, he started that streak.
Well, don't let too many major league hitters hear that, because they'll be trying to put their head in front of a pitch to see if they get that same result. But wow.
Right. It's like luck or something. So, right. Yeah, I don't know. And we've actually looked at, each of the pitchers that he faced and stuff, and they were all Hall of Fame caliber pitchers, basically. So it was just like, I mean, there were a few of them were at least, I think at least one or two of them were in the Hall of Fame. So
wow. So they were live arms that were thrown to him.
Yes, is what I'm saying. Like, it wasn't like they were just, teams or something. Apparently that was like real, like good pitchers were pitching to him when this was happening. So it just makes the streak, and to even push this further, he actually had 16 straight plate appearances from walking, like, twice after that. So it was like
so he gets on base by getting beaned, has 14 straight hits, and then gets walked twice. Wow.
It was like, and that's a record, apparently, 60 straight plate, or a tie. I'm trying to remember if that ties a record or that is record, but I'm pretty sure that's a record for a plate appearances where you make on base, where you're on base. So yeah, but the hits, better than major league. The major league record is 12.
Jeez, so, that's remarkable. But 14's out of this world. Wow.
Yeah, and that we've and the major leagues have said this, that Negro League stats are now Negro League stats. And the fact that now it's not all of the Negro League leagues. It depends on the year, and it depends on it's like so. But it's a lot of them, and from what we're finding now that this is considered major league, a record like that needs to be, in the Hall of Fame beside Joe DiMaggio or something. I mean, that needs recognized, and that's what we're really fighting for here. Is really a lack of recognition of Negro League players.
Well, damn it! Somebody needs to make a movie about this guy. Oh wait, we do have somebody.
How about that?
Well, okay. You convinced me. My question, I said, why would you make a movie about it? You got a whole bunch of ammunition here of why. But you said something before we started recording today.
Oh yeah,
talking about how his connection from Georgia coming up to Steelton, which is near to your home. And when somebody, why don't you tell that story when somebody asked you about Rap Dixon?
Oh, you mean like, so like, well, the fact that I had never heard of him previously. And
that's the one. That's the story.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, it was the same thing with science. It was like, because people, brought him up to me, and like his statistics and stuff, and me being from Harrisburg and the Steelton area, and not hearing about it, I'm like, well, how could I, if I haven't heard of it, how many people haven't heard of it? I mean, this is a story that has way with the Giants team. So, and Rap was the part that was, to me, was the most interesting, because there was so much that he accomplished, like I've been saying and stuff. But this guy, Rap Dixon, never even heard of him. I was the first time I ever heard of the Giants movie, like talking to him about it and everything. And he brought him up, and he's talking about it. I'm like, I've never even heard of this guy. Who is this? Rap Dixon. And I was like, he went through all of these things that I've been going through with you and stuff. And I was like convinced. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, why is it, this is like the greatest baseball player that nobody's talking about? Like,
it's like those hidden unicorns that you never hear about. And then you hear about these great players, and it brings the excitement of sports and sports history and baseball history to makes you feel like a kid again. So that's awesome. So I'm glad that you're doing this.
Yeah.
Now, what are your plans? What sort of, do you have like a timetable laid out for when the film is going to be completed?
The film, I'm planning on it being out. It depends on the festival window that I make. I'm launching a crowdfunding campaign. I'm hoping to launch it in October. that I can, finish the film up and everything. It's in a pretty good state right now as far as the editing goes and whatnot, but I definitely need some finishing funds to help with the license of various hats. So I'm going to try to funding the fall, and then I'm going to hopefully either get it out spring, summer 2023 or early 2024, like winter, spring, that time. It depends on the festival window because there's very specific like deadline, and to make, so whether or not I make like certain deadlines for, that's what I'm saying right now. So
okay,
that's,
I mean, I'm sympathize with you because I don't know if you're aware, but my friend and I, Oz Davis, we have a podcast audio drama out on Orville Mulligan Sports Writer, where we took a fictitious sports writer from Pittsburgh, and he bounces around to different things in 1924 because it was a great year for sports, especially the fall of 24. Game 7 of the World Series in Washington. It's the first time it goes extra innings in Game 7, and the Four Horsemen of Notre Dame, and just a bunch of different things going on in the sports scene. So we got some boxing, some wrestling, and baseball and football going. So I can sympathize with you of hitting deadlines and writing things out, and your best laid plans sometimes are you overshoot them a little bit. You have to stretch that out a little bit because it's quite a task.
That's why I gave that. I don't want to like mislead anyone and that it's like, like it's definitely here, and everybody said it's like, where's the film? Like, where's it? I don't want to do that. So that's why I'm being honest.
I don't blame you. That's wise to do that.
Yeah, I'm just where it is, and I'm kind of a one man band here, so with as far as
right. So, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you make me a promise when you get closer and you have some definite plans where people can see it. Now, the people can go and see your other film that you got out there for free. And I'm going to ask you to probably send me the email links that we'll put it in the show notes for the listeners to find that film. But then when this film on Rap Dixon comes out, send me the information. We'll definitely put it up on our website. We'll say something on the podcast about it. We'll get it out on social media so that folks can know where to find it. So I promise you that we'll do that if you send me that information.
Oh, I can do that. That's no problem.
Well, Scott, we really appreciate you coming on today and talking about Rap Dixon, sharing the history that you know about him, and enlightening us on this truly amazing player. 14 at bats. I'm still astounded here by that. I'm dumbified here by it. But we're really excited to see
the greatest accomplishments in sports.
Yeah, we're excited about seeing the Rap Dixon film, but we're excited to watch this one on the Harrisburg Giants as well that you have out now. So, Scott, I appreciate you coming on and joining us here on the Sports Jersey Dispatch podcast.
Oh, well, thank you. It's been a pleasure, Darren. I had a great time.
Sorry, but my pitching coach just called timeout and he's coming out to the mound. I think I'm going to get yanked for a reliever. We'll see you back tomorrow for some more great sports history on Sports Jersey Dispatch Podcast. We invite you to check out our websites, jerseydispatch.com and pigskindispatch.com. Not only see the daily sports history, but to experience the preservation of great events and people that play the games. Find us on Pigskin Dispatch. It's also on social media outlets of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel. You get all your daily sports history. Pigskin Dispatch is happy to be associated with the Sports History Network, the sports headquarters of yesteryear, found at sportshistorynetwork.com.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row One, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings your sports history to life anywhere. The Row One gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row One shop, check out the thousands more of unique unique items with a retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row 1 catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row 1 Pictorium Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes.